thinking only like 17 showed up. Them people cheat so bad. We shot 15 under and got fifth.
We played pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's call this May 3rd meeting, Board of Supervisors order this time. And Mr. Slay, if you don't mind doing the invitation, we'd appreciate it one more time. Thank you.
Let's pray. Father, our hearts turn to those who are suffering from damage from weather. We ask for your continued protection, for your sustaining power to be visited upon those folks, Lord. I pray that you will help us as we continue to navigate the uncertainties of this life. Pray, Father, you'll help to give us a good plan so that even though we can't predict everything that may happen, Lord, we have a good plan in place. Thank you for people who are wise, see out beyond just the present circumstances, Lord. Think about things that may happen. Father, that's a blessing from you. Thank you, Father, for these men who willingly sacrificed their time and their effort and their energy for the betterment of this county. Help us, Lord, to all pull together and see to it that we serve with all of our heart in the best interest of everyone in this county. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. All right, no public comments?
No, sir, there's nobody out there.
Okay. All right, a motion approved old business.
I make a motion approved.
Motion approved by Brad.
Second.
By Daniel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda. Any questions? All right, a motion approved.
So moved.
Motion approved by Daniel.
Second.
Second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor?
I have just one question.
Okay.
Hey, so what is Monarch?
It's Monarch is a computer program, software program that will assist us in the way we're planning on doing the budget this year. And it takes information out of the AS400 and converts it into a format that we can run reports and use the information instead of on paper electronically.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? John Sullivan.
Item A, petition to change the assessment 2020 real and personal property assessment roll.
So moved.
Second.
Motion approved by Steve.
Shay.
Second by Daniel. All in favor say aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
And item B, request to void the tax sale, PIN number 61673.
Motion.
Motion approved by Steve.
Second.
Second by Brad. Any discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mike Harrison.
Morning.
Morning.
Road work accomplished for April and scheduled for May.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Motion approved by Daniel, second by Jay. All in favor say aye. All
Aye.
opposed?
Request approval for AT&T to contract fiber optic cable right along East Business Park Drive installed between Highway 80 and East Business Park Drive.
Motion.
District 4.
Second.
Motion approved by Steve, second by Daniel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Parker,
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mike.
we're running a record time here.
I'll go on through.
I brought me extra water.
Morning.
Man, I need it.
Yeah.
The first item we have, Mr. President, is the East Pine Brook Drainage Project for discussion and potential action, the District 2 project. Give you a little history. Y'all actually should have a bid tab in your folder there on the bids that were taken on April 6th. A little history on that project. When Mike and I first looked at that project, this was something that we had planned on county forces doing. It's raising East Pine Brook Drive in a low area to try to get it out of the flood zone. We thought it was going to be a project that the county crews had the capability of doing, and as we got into the design, it just, because of some utilities and other things, it grew to a project that obviously was going to be beyond the scope of something that the county crews needed to spend all their time doing. So the project was put out for bid, and since after it was put out for bid, we actually had another big rain event on April 9th and 10th, and Mr. Cross was out there, Mike was out there, myself, county crews obviously, but we were able to look at a lot of things in the area of Pine Brook, and There's still a lot of concern downstream of Pine Brook subdivision, closer to the reservoir. And it looks like we need to push our study a little further towards the reservoir. And we got to get the water out of there quicker into the reservoir. And this project obviously doesn't do that at all. It just helps one street. But after talking about it with Daniel and Mike, it's our opinion that now it's better to concentrate the financial efforts in the spillway area to try to globally address what will help everybody, and then potentially come back at a later date and look at if you even have to raise East Pine Brook Drive, and potentially if you did have to raise it, you might have to not have to raise it as much. So
Here's one thing I want to add to Tim's deal. What this bid was for was to add that road, raise the road. I don't know how many inches it was, and I know your math shows that it all works, but my ignorance and my gut tells me it doesn't work. And the reason I say it, because we still had this flood event on the 9th or 10th, and we had water still getting pretty high.
Haven't we already done something too?
Well, what happened was there was the bridge that runs that creek in between it. We took it from culvert size to box size, so we enlarged it to allow the water getting out.
And that did flow better through
and it did flow better through there. The problem is it's bottling up at Spillway Road. It can't get into the reservoir. So all that area at Spillway Road is bottling up. Remember, Pine Brook's in a bowl, so it's all sitting down really low, so we can't get the water out of there. My gut tells me is if you go in and we pave that road and we raise the water 2 inches, it's going to still flood. It's going to be in the houses. I know your math shows it doesn't
right,
work.
so the model actually shows that it won't do that, but there again, it's a hydraulic model. It's not an exact science, and I certainly can't argue that point.
I just don't, I don't
There's
trust
concern
it.
there.
Because if it goes up 2 inches, right now we're not in the homes. If the water level bumps up by adding more stuff, more road to it, it gets in those houses, then we're in a bigger mess. So I'd rather push the thought down, hold off on this bid, because what the bid's for is for the road. So I want to stop it, because if we go in and do it, I don't feel good saying anything.
I don't think it's gonna really correct the problem.
Yeah, I don't know that it works.
Oh,
So
you
I-
agree.
Might make it worse.
that's right,
It's
making it
bad
worse. So-
now, it'd be terrible then.
And this is
yeah.
all my fault anyway, right? So I mean,
That's what I
either way,
mean.
that's right.
All right,
So
just make
why not
sure.
make it even worse? But I just don't want to. I want to stop the bid process. Is what I want to do.
So the appropriate action would be to reject the bids for the East Pine Brook drainage
I can do
project.
that
Put it
with
all
straight.
together.
I can do all that with just a straight motion, right? Well, we're already under that declaration on the study, so he's already looking at it. But we've got to get down. He's got to do the math down. I guess it's going to be north toward the reservoir.
Right.
To find a way to get more water out of that area. Because again, remember, it's in a bowl, so all the water goes down in this bowl. It's got to push out to Spillway Road to get into the reservoir. But if it can't get pushed out, it's still going to back up.
So along Spillway Road, where's that at?
All right, so it's right there at Turtle
You know where
Creek.
Scenic Drive is? Where Scenic Drive takes
Well,
off?
let me back up. It's the old lakeside. So you got the old lakeside at Turtle Creek subdivision, Harbor
Right.
View.
Yeah.
On the other side of the road is the old Pine Lake, which is the new lakeside.
Yeah.
Right. So between those two areas, that ditch spits out of Pine Brook. That's all the water coming off Hugh Ward Boulevard into that spot, but it's lower than the reservoir and it can't get out. So though we increased the box size, and that creek that comes off Huntington Lake is flowing better, it's just bottling up down there. So Tim's got to find a way to get that water into the reservoir better. So until we do that, we don't need to do that. We don't need to raise the road up. We raise the road up now. My ignorance
dam.
tells me I flood the houses.
You're damming
It's
it.
pretty obvious at Spillway. If you ride down there today, when there's no water flowing, the box under Spillway is going to be 3/4 full, and under Scenic, there's a box under Spillway and under Scenic, and they both, because of the level of the reservoir. So we got to figure out some way in there to get more water through a
So
smaller
on that
area.
night again,
So if the reservoir is full, then
the reservoir's full, it's gonna back up even
It ain't gonna
further,
happen
unless
anyway.
it gets trenched out more, and that's gonna be the reservoir issue on that side. But we still got water backing up all the way on the Spillway Road and Scenic.
Could they be involved? Well, I think right now, as we move our study to Spillway Road to concentrate on that area, we obviously engage them once we get some data, because I think they got to be involved, because the level of the reservoir is obviously a critical part of
And
it.
that changes year to year.
That's
I mean,
right.
They decide what they want.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I don't see, it's gonna be hard to find an answer if the reservoir can't take it.
Right. Well, and I think it possibly, if you think about it, if you're trying to shove it through a small area of the box, if you had more area at that same elevation, just
Right.
wider,
Right.
potentially.
Or it could be to a spot where we have a retention pond in that area to collect
Yeah.
more of the water to hold it. Right now, it's outside the banks
Right.
in
Be
that
a
spot.
big retention pond.
Yeah, any
Yeah,
retention
absolutely.
pond, really. So, but I mean,
Be like a
I
lake.
just don't, I don't feel good on
Okay.
bidding out the asphalt stuff right now,
All
so.
right,
So Slay, just a motion to clean that up, to kill that?
A motion to
Just-
reject the
we just
bids,
reject the bid.
for the reasons that have already been stated, that we
So-
don't believe that it's gonna help, it's possibly gonna hurt.
just gonna hold
Thank all
up.
the
So
vendors.
that'll be, yeah, thank all your vendors for your participation. But, so, yeah, that'd be my motion.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Daniel, second by, was it
Second.
Jay?
Bishop.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed.
Second item we have, Mr. President, is Antioch Farms. We're recommending approval of the preliminary plat. This is a District 3 development. I will note that this development will require rezoning, but, so this is just approval of the preliminary plat so they can move into the rezoning phase.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion approved by Brad,
Second.
second by Jay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Third item, Mr. President, is on the Andrew Chapel Road Bridge Replacement Project. We're closing that project out. We're recommending approval of the summary change order for a decrease, I repeat, a decrease in the amount of $3,347.50 and approval of payout number 13, the final to Joe McGee Construction in the amount of $59,842.58 and authority to issue the check.
She's
District
done good
4
with that
project.
gains, you know.
All right, motion approved by Steve,
Second.
second by Jay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed.
Item D, Mr. President, is on the Andrew Chapel Road reconstruction project. We're recommending award of the contract to Site Master Construction, Inc. in the amount of $4,342,618.65.
Motion.
Motion approved by Steve,
Second.
second by Brad. I'm just curious, how close are we, did that come in pretty close to what we estimated?
It did. Obviously, it was higher than the original estimates way back, but our final estimate, once we put it out for bid, was in the 4.1, 4.2 range. And so that was right in
Right,
there.
yeah,
The second
good.
low, but you should have a bid tab. I apologize for not mentioning that. You should have a bid tab in your packet.
I do.
The second low was, $250,000 higher, so on a 4.3, that gives us a pretty good indication that that's the value of the project. The
Was
third-
that going to complete the project?
Sir?
Just to finish it?
Yes, sir.
So where is Site Master out of?
Phoebe, Mississippi, which is outside of
Phoebe?
Starkville.
I never heard of them.
Well, it's good to know they're at least from Mississippi. It'd be better if we could got one of our Rankin County guys.
They bid it on it.
They bid, they just didn't get it right. That's a shame, isn't it? You're right here at home, you can't get it.
Hey, the economy's too good.
Okay. All right, anyway, I was just curious how it's looking, that's good.
And we are seeing construction prices rise right now, and part of it's materials, but the other part of it is everybody's so busy.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion, that's driving it more than the material costs on our
Well,
type of
that's,
construction.
That's great within the money, that's great. All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, good deal.
Thank you.
Mr. Slate, we combine some of these? All these public hearings?
Do the first three.
So-
Bob.
Thank you. Yeah, I decided to.
First three.
Mom addressed me this morning, so. Yeah, the 38 law.
You probably gonna send them all.
Okay, let's see. Let me get my wits about me. Mr. President, first item is just to set a public hearing. Looks like we've got several that are going to be set on the 14th. A, B, and C would be to set for May 14, 2021 at 9 a.m. If I could get one motion on A, B, and C, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion to set A, B, and C, May
Motion.
14th.
Motion by Brad,
Second.
second by Steve, set these public hearings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President, items D and E are to set public hearings for June 7 at 9 a.m. This would be Rankin County initiated rezoning and the conditional use permit for Van Allen.
I'll make a
D
motion.
and A, D and E.
I'll make a motion to set D and E on June 7th.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Brad, sets these public hearings, second by, C, Jay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Item F is a little interesting. It may take just a second to explain to you guys what's happening here. Hamlet subdivision is out at Belgrove. just off of Spillway, near this same area we were just talking about with respect to where the water from Pine Brook is actually flowing before it crosses Spillway. Hamlet was partially developed in 2005. Since 2005, we've had a letter of credit standing for that subdivision development that was provided by the developer. That's our normal course of action, even back that far. The letter of credit stands as security or collateral for the installation of the final wearing surface. The reason this is a little unusual is that the developer himself developed this subdivision to have private streets, to be a gated subdivision. And so somebody back in '05 was thinking ahead because they still require the developer to put up a letter of credit to see to it that the streets were developed in accordance with the county's minimum standards. As you guys know, even if a street or streets in a subdivision are going to remain private, the developer is required to build those to our standard. And so apparently we required the letter of credit to be held, and that's where it has been ever since. No additional development has taken place for many years out there, and the developer has recently come to the county and indicated that he wants to try to liquidate the rest of the remaining lots and move on. And so I think he's got the lots sold, and what he's asked to do is to write a check to the county for the amount of the letter of credit that we're holding as a substitute for the collateral, and allow us then to release the letter of credit. It's better for him to do that because he has to pay a fee to have the letter of credit in place every year. So he's ready to get off of that train and just give us the money. And what we will do is we will require that the streets at least be at the standard they are now, which I think are concrete streets, if I recall correctly, Tim. And so they're definitely at our standard, as it were. So this is really just a good way for the county to accommodate this request without hurting the county in any way.
It's gonna be,
We're
it'll
no
stay
worse
private.
off. Yes, sir, they'll be a private street. They won't be subject to county maintenance.
So what do you do as far as concrete? There's no final wearing surface on concrete, is
Yeah,
there?
that's right. It's the final wearing surface.
I mean, so what
Yeah.
do you do? I mean, is there
You,
nothing to be done with it?
There's
Or are
no-
we gonna
there's
go in there
nothing
and fix
for-
where some damage is?
there's nothing for the county to do. The county has the ability, should it desire to do so, the county has the ability to, in essence, bring it to a standard or make repairs using the monies that the developer is putting in place here, if the county chooses to do so under the development ordinance. But I don't know if the county's gonna.
Why would we do anything to it? It's private.
I think the alleys are, they'd have some 12-foot alleys, and I think they're concrete, the streets are asphalt.
Okay, all right.
They are.
Oh, I
Hey,
mean, why would we choose to do anything?
We don't have to do anything, and that would be subject to y'all's deliberation, Jerry.
Well, isn't that on the developer anyway, though?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Hey, and here's the other tidbit on this. Just he's called me several times that he's wanting to do an additional wing to that, additional add-on, because there's still some undeveloped property over there. So just when your thoughts are walking through this plan, I want to be sure we keep the same parameters. If he's trying to do another, I don't want him off the hook trying to do another development on that same point. So Tim, I don't know if Tim's aware of that.
Yeah.
Hey, did
Tim
you
and I-
know this thing? The developer there has called me a couple times. I was supposed to meet with him last week, and I think he called Janice and canceled. Huh? Dan Hughes, yeah. And he's wanting to do another develop. There's part of that section of Hamlet right there in front of Belgrove that hadn't been developed.
Right, right.
He's wanting to do an additional building to, and I think that's maybe what Benchmark told us Friday. Yeah, they mentioned that to us.
Right.
I just don't want this to cloud anything on that new development side, right? So letting him out of this for that cash money side of the road, just in your back of your mind going through it, do you see any kind of hang-ups on that new development?
No, because we've actually met with
met
Mr.
with-
Hughes on this other piece of property already one time.
Okay.
And he was talking about potentially bringing in a road there's a road to a church, I
Yeah.
believe.
That's Lakeside Church.
Okay,
that it
Lakeside
backs
Church.
up
He was
to.
talking, he thought he has a 50-foot access easement on part of that road, he thinks, or, I mean, he didn't. That's
correct.
And then he was talking about potentially another access, but he was not, he wasn't talking
It's not
about
gonna
any
impact these
access.
streets.
All right, so you're good with that, knowing that new development.
Right.
He could want to do one right there, right? All right.
So is it still gonna be private?
It's gotta be, I guess. It's gonna be inside that fenced-in
The
area.
new area, yeah, new
The
would
new
have to be
area's
private.
inside.
Yeah,
that
he
fenced-in
has a
area, too.
choice with respect to this undeveloped piece.
Right.
He can either develop it as a private street subdivision, and we would use the very same formula that was used back in '05 for Hamlet. Or he can develop to our standards, and assuming they
Well,
meet
and-
our
and I guess
standards,
that was
we'll
kind
accept it
of,
as public
I guess that was
streets.
my fear. My fear of the whole thing was that he's not gonna take the new development and make it private. If he was gonna make it public, and would this allow him to move what he already has private to public? I wanna be sure we don't have to create a
No.
loophole
Yeah,
for
no,
it to
we-
happen.
Well, I would.
I don't want a
would-
loophole is what I'm saying.
I'd make sure you couldn't
But what
be,
he does need to understand that potential, if he wants to access his new development through Hamlet, which I can't imagine he's gonna wanna do, but if he does, then we have issues with
That's
existing
correct.
roads being private streets, and they need to be public.
That's
And then
correct.
that's gonna be a large hill to climb.
he needs to come in a different way, doesn't he?
But I guess what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, I just wanna be sure this doesn't cloud up those decisions we're gonna have to make on that new subdivision side. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
I don't-
You
So
good?
the Hamlet
good?
is actually a plat. It's a
Right.
platted subdivision, and on the plat, there is nowhere that the county accepts anything with respect to the streets inside Hamlet. That won't change until this board allows
Okay.
an amended plat to
Okay.
reflect
All
that
right.
they're public. Y'all haven't accepted those streets. As far as I know, there's no intention.
So all we're doing is just changing the ability, with his letter of credit, from cash
We're
to a
releasing the
note.
letter of credit in
Okay.
exchange for cash money, and it puts the board is in exactly the same position it would have been otherwise.
Okay.
Well, the money though, we're just holding it
We're gonna
because
hold it.
there, it's private, so we're not doing
Correct.
anything with it. We're holding it for who?
Yes, sir. Well, I expect the builders who are gonna build houses in there in the coming months to probably cause some damage
Yeah,
to the
but
streets
who's-
that are
Yeah,
there.
but, wow, if we're holding, we're not
Right.
fixing the damage,
That's correct.
but
It'll
we'll
be-
have money for them to fix it?
Yes, sir. We'll have money for you guys to pay me and Tim and others to force whoever causes the damage to
Okay.
fix it.
Okay,
Is 19,000 enough?
that don't sound like.
Well, 19,000 was the deal in
That just get, that
2005.
just get a couple
correct.
letters out of
The
you.
19,000, yeah, that doesn't cover one of
That's a
Slade's
couple
good
letters.
letters, that's right.
That's
One of
right.
Slade's letters is
Buy another pair
19,000.
of
That's right.
shoes.
Y'all are just hammered.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wait till you see what I wear on the 14th.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna look like
I'm ready.
the trashiest lawyer ever.
That was, the 19,000 was a number set in 2005, so obviously it's not the
2005.
same number.
That
but-
was 150% of whatever the expected cost was.
yeah,
It's a
concrete's
small,
gone way
this
up.
is a small, this is probably 10 or 15 houses, it's a small area, so it's not
Still
very big.
19,000 don't
Yeah,
do
it's
much.
still right, gonna fix it.
That's right.
All right,
Special
All right,
so
so
I have a
I'll-
motion to
Yeah, I'll make that
approve
motion.
this. Motion by Daniel. Second by Jay. Any discussion? More discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Item G is a discussion of and potential action on an animal variance request. I actually think this is a repeat of one that we had started previously.
It is.
This is involving the Bay Point subdivision. We held up because there was some interplay between the actual architectural review committee of the HOA at Bay Point and the homeowner about the way that the enclosure was constructed. I think it was chain link initially. And so the architectural review committee notified the county that they wanted to revisit that issue. Apparently the covenants don't allow for chain link fencing out there, and I believe it was viewed, the dog owner is here. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember your name. I apologize. Yes, okay. Ms. Shepherd, that's right. And so I think that has been worked out, to the best of my knowledge. We got an indication on Friday late from the attorney for the homeowners association that they believed that all of the matters that were in play had been resolved to their satisfaction. The only thing that was left to deal with was for our animal control guys to go back out and make sure that the replacement fence material was adequate to get the job done. That is, to enclose the animal and keep the animal penned up appropriately. And so that review took place on Friday, is my understanding. So it looks like we're in a position for the board to go ahead and move forward in approving the animal variance, with the condition obviously being that the homeowner is going to maintain the pen enclosure, and the homeowner is going to maintain the required insurance, and the homeowner is going to otherwise remain in compliance with the HOA's regulations as well. And we also have to have the dog. We got to make sure that if the dog's outside the pen enclosure, the dog is under total control of the owner, and I mean an adult, not kids. We need the animal on a leash under control by an adult if it's outside the pen enclosure. So with that, Ms. Shepherd, you have any questions or concerns? Okay. So what I would ask then is that we have a motion to authorize the issuance of our variance permit to Christina Shepherd at 1109 Fairway Cove, Brandon, in the Bay Point subdivision with those conditions.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion approved by Daniel, second by Brad. Any more discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. You got it.
Worked out.
All worked out.
Thank you.
If I may,
Pictures, please.
just a point of privilege, just for a moment, I wanted to, I see that my tax collector's here, and so I wanted to let you guys know that we have a good system, a good team process to try to stay on top of our unpaid ad valorem taxes. We have, from time to time, we have issues with various taxpayers being a little slow on getting their payments made. And when I say slow, I mean years behind. Got one I'm working on right now that hadn't paid since 2010. So,
Wow.
yeah, we've got a few issues like that that we have to deal with. The tax collector has been very helpful and very quick to get some things turned around that allow us to move that process forward with speed, and we're starting to see some success. I had visits with 3 taxpayers last Friday, and they seemed to understand that the situation was pretty serious, and I expect there to be some very quick action. And I just wanted to say in front of my tax collector that I appreciate the fact that she's so helpful and ready to help us move that process forward, and hopefully we'll see some good results out of that.
Great.
Okay. I've got Trey coming for an executive. You might know that on a day when it looks like we're moving through the docket with very much in the way of speed, I told him to be here at 10. So I apologize if we have a little bit of a slowdown in getting the meeting over with, but if y'all will bear with us, we've got some really important stuff we need to talk to you about in executive.
Okay. Keith, don't break the momentum.
Good morning. Item A is the authority to pay an invoice to Liberty Mutual, and this is a two-parter. One is for a final audit adjustment, and the other part is a change in the current policy endorsement on our workers' comp. This is just, they come in and do an annual audit and adjust what our workers' rate based on the job classification in. That resulted in an increase, and then the policy overall. This should close us out for the year.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion approved by Daniel,
Second.
second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
And then item B is the approval to apply for a DEQ waste tire grant in the amount of $100,000 and authority for the board president to execute the document.
So moved.
Motion approved by Daniel, second by, who's that, Jay?
Yep.
Jay,
Yes, sir.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And I'm not breaking momentum. Give me just a minute. I have one additional item to add to the agenda.
There's not a C on here.
This is B under the next section.
That's a B plus.
We have approximately 400 pieces of equipment stored in a warehouse that's been there for unused for about 4 years. It's old election equipment that is obsolete, outdated. It's already been taken off inventory, and it's just taking up space now. We've received an estimate from Magnolia Data Solutions. They will come out, load the equipment up, recycle what they can, and destroy the rest of it, and it will get it out of our hands. And the estimate is around $3,230 to get rid of all this stuff and free up space for Larry.
if I may chime in, the reason that it has been held in storage for 4 years is because the Department of Archives and History has it marked as the type of information that has to be stored for a requisite period of time. It depends on which section of it you want to review. As an abundance of caution, I took the position that we needed to hold it until we could figure out whether or not somebody would interpret the length of time in a way that was favorable to us. And so we've had good communications with both the state auditor and the Secretary of State's office. Not really that concerned about what Department of Archives and History has to say about it at this stage, as long as the state auditor and the Secretary of State are okay with us disposing of it. I'm okay with us disposing of it. So just to clarify, because I know that we've got a long history with this equipment and we've talked about it a lot, so I figured y'all might want to know what changed.
We got to pay
Well,
$3,000 to destroy it.
Well, that's better than keeping it. Heck, nobody will buy it now.
Yeah.
It's not worth
And
anything.
my point
Daniel?
is, can we not destroy it?
Well, Daniel, it has.
Because Mike Word tears up some stuff.
It's
it
all that
has-
BS about the information on
It has information in it
Huh?
that we have to be able to track as having been destroyed.
I guess that's my
Inaccessible,
point.
rendered
Yeah,
inaccessible.
we could go out there and put hammers to it.
I mean, I
you
think
know.
the sheriff's team can, Paul, y'all blow stuff up, can't you?
I've always lobbied that it should be hard armor out at Mill Creek. It
I can't
would
argue.
serve that purpose perfectly. Just stick it on creek banks and
Can you put it in
that's
like?
where we store
can you
it.
Pile it up like riffraff?
Yeah, the problem is that it also has some material in it that is computer related, Daniel, that
Like
makes it a
capacitors
little
and all that.
dicey for us just to chunk it.
And they have
You
batteries.
just, I
Well,
mean,
aren't we
I
about to have
mean
our
this, I don't
waste
mean this
week
as a
coming
joke.
up?
I don't mean as a joke. Could you not just crush it and put it in a dumpster?
After you take the batteries out, you have to take the LCDs.
They don't do that when they come down and pick it up
You have to take them apart.
at
before
your
you-
dumpster.
I guess my thing is just I mean, I'm not fussing about $3,000.
Yeah.
but We're
Well,
we're
they
paying
gonna
somebody
make something
$3,000
off
to
of
throw
it.
some computers away.
Well, we have calls in,
That's
this
it.
is not gonna help your feelings,
Yeah.
believe me, but we have calls in now to try to verify whether or not specific monies that have been made available by the federal government could be used for this purpose.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps a little
I'll be
bit.
honest, man, I thought it was gonna be more than that.
A dumpster cost you $1,000.
Might work. Can you
We got
destroy that for
dump trucks.
$3,000?
Dump trucks, put them in there.
But you gonna have to.
He can do it for 25.
I don't know. Word cut a deal on you. He got that stuff
Landfill.
going quick.
But you can get.
I know
charged
this
on
new
it.
construction
$35.
company that's capable of doing
We
it.
need a
Yeah.
motion to add.
Yeah, hey, that's it. All
Yeah.
All right, I make a motion to add this item to the agenda.
right,
Look, there it
second.
is. He says, whatever trailer it is.
Bishop made a deal to add it to the agenda.
Yeah.
I
All
second.
right, motion to add this to the agenda by Jay, second by Daniel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed, motion approved by Jay, second by
Yep.
Daniel. All in favor say aye. All
Aye.
opposed.
I don't like it.
Yeah, really.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I mean, thank her.
All right, additional
for
business.
that.
Yeah, no shit.
I was trying to get Craig to get rid of it a couple years ago.
That's one of the things we could have said
Thank
we
you,
lost.
Caroline.
We lost.
Good to see you.
We could let Word store it and then it'd come up missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's over there somewhere.
That's right.
Dig a deep hole, put it in.
So
Hey,
you have
Word,
any other items?
Word. You
You have
want,
anything else, Keith?
We got, no, we're on additional business.
That's those FEMA shelters, J1, I
Right.
think.
Word.
You said you
You got
still
some
formed this
update?
week?
Heard anything?
I'm still thinking
Right.
about it.
Yeah, I am too.
I've sent I spoke with the director of MEMA this morning, and I followed up with a text message and email. I've not received any reply back. There's a strong possibility that if you decide to move forward on this storm shelter project, obviously our match is 25%. There's a very, very good likelihood, which I don't have it in writing, so I'm gonna say no at this point, that we're actually gonna be held accountable for only 12.5% of that. The director of MEMA is looking at his accounts now to see exactly how much money he's got in there. And he expressed to us on the phone and that they were willing to go in half with us on the 12.5%, so we would be 12.5, they would be 12.5. I'm trying to get that in writing from him, but he had to look at the account and see exactly how much he had in there. The total amount, Brian's got the total amounts. If all 3 of the sub-projects were to be approved at this point, we have only been approved to move to the application process on 2 out of the 3. And that's for the 2 big 361 shelters, the one that's identical to the one over at Marquette.
Only they're smaller.
Sir,
They're smaller.
We didn't come up with anything yet.
we come up with $4.2 million on a cost estimate to do identical to what we have over at Marquette, one north, one south. Our match on that is $1,075,000 each.
Each.
That's on 25%.
That's at 25%. So it's possible we could knock that in half. The smaller ones that are the 50-person shelters, 5 of those, the 25% match on that is $56,250. We may be able to cut that one in half as well, but we don't have it in writing from MEMA. So at that point, I'm not willing to stand here and tell you that your match has dropped from 25% to 12.5%. I'm not prepared to walk out on that limb. This whole project's been kind of like catching flies with chopsticks, chasing it all around. So,
But now, we were told that any construction county does would
Yes.
go toward,
right. So if we were to, let's just say we're looking at $2.3 million as a total 25% match. If we had to acquire land, if we had to do dirt work, we did whatever the county spent its own resources in. If we spent $3 million preparing dirt to put these things in, then that counts as our 25%. It can be in kind, whether that is the actual value of the land, any preparations that have been done, dirt work, I presume, man hours and all of that. So we could whittle our side down pretty significantly, I would think, based off our own labor, if we were able to use Mr. Harrison and his crews to be able to knock some of that out.
What fund would this money come out of? Where would it come from? The matching money?
Well, we would just have to find a fund.
No, I'm saying what line item, where does it come? Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay. You answered.
I have run into one hiccup, and we hadn't had a chance to brief because we just figured this out this morning early, probably about 8 o'clock, on the application process. And basically what we need from you guys is, if it's your pleasure for us to proceed forward, which is what we need authority to proceed with the application process. If we do that, there's some hiccups that we're going to have to get with Mr. Slay about. One of those we recognized this morning. Brian can speak to that about land acquisition and proof of ownership is one of the requirements on the application process. And as I told you guys briefly the other day, our deputy director has done yeoman's work on this thing. This is a 12 or 15 page application for each of the projects, and it is very, very detailed. I'm talking about going back in history, how many tornadoes has come through, what's the possible effects on the people, what is your actual damage assessments in the past. There's a ton of research and information to go through, so there's a lot of man hours that are going to be invested in this application process, and that's the reason we just kind of put the brakes on last week until you guys determined what your pleasure was, if you wanted to move forward or not. We just didn't want to.
We're moving forward, besides time that y'all are devoting on this project, is it gonna cost the county anything?
As far as our time,
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You're already paying for our time. The only thing that we're going to be held accountable to is the 25% potential match. Could be 12.5, but I think we need to prepare ourselves for 25.
Yeah, so it's the application moves through the process. All you're doing is indicating your acknowledgement and willingness to pay whatever the match is. It could be 25%. At some point, there will be an award, and that's when you will definitely confirm your obligation. But at this point, you're indicating your intention and ability to pay the match that is required, whatever that would be. I don't see any harm in moving forward with the applications. If you get them, you can figure out what do you do at that point to fund the match. And I'm seeing a good bit of flexibility and wiggle room to get your match
And you don't,
met.
and you don't have to fund the whole thing. You could say, hey, we'll take half of this, in theory, and not do the whole thing,
Yeah.
if you wanted to at the
Now,
time.
you could say we're gonna do one shelter.
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are 3 separate
That's right.
applications that I'm filling out, so we can pick out 1, 2, or 3.
The north end of the county, big 361 shelter identical to Marquette is project 1, in no particular order. The one south is another project, and then the 5 smaller shelters, they told us to group those together in project number 3, which has not been approved
Does not have.
Now,
for the
What was
application
that?
process.
What was the third?
The 5 smaller shelters,
Yeah.
the little 50-person shelters,
Right.
those have not been approved by the state to move forward, so.
But 1 and 2,
One and
we are looking to put those on 16 section possibility
Yeah, I
if we can work out something with
Right.
the,
Yeah, I
the
think
school.
that was a good idea. I don't remember who came up with that idea. I'll claim credit for it, but somebody else came up with that idea. How we can acquire that for purposes of what I just heard about proof of ownership, we may have to have some kind of agreement with the school district that provides us with documentation that would be satisfactory to meet that requirement. So that's the only hitch that I can see right now, Brad, that may have to change.
I just, when I was sitting back there just a few minutes ago, I sent the director of MEMA a text message and told him that I believe I'd misspoke this morning. I told him that all 3 of the projects had been approved, but they had not. So just back there, within the last 10 minutes, I sent him a text message, just let him know that I misspoke. I just received an email that it has now been approved for the pre-application process for project number 3. So, and that literally just come through a minute ago. So
So all 3 projects.
all 3
have been
projects
approved.
now have been approved for the application process.
We've been cleared to file an application. That's where we stand.
We had to do a notice of intent on all 3, send those in, those were approved. That allowed us to go to a pre-application process. Those have been approved, and now we're up to the step number 3, if you will, application process.
To Mike's point, I think unless you guys authorize the submission of the applications, we're in a no man's land, because the next thing is you're on the hook for that match. And I don't think anybody wants to put the board in that position unless the board is ready to be in that position.
Well, I really don't make these guys go through and do all the work, nor submit an application for something that we know we're not gonna do. You know, I mean, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. If we're not, we're not. You know?
That's an excellent point.
The only one thing I can see, and I keep going back and thinking about it, is you approve for, what'd you say, 5 of the small ones?
5 of the small ones.
There's several things on it I've just had questions about them. If you did those, one, how do you know, do they approve where they go? Does MEMA have any factor of where they go?
No, we had to submit to them a primary and an alternate location.
Yeah.
And I believe the reason we had to do that, so they could go in and look and make sure that wasn't in floodplains.
Well,
I'm making the assumption
Well,
that's
what I
what
was getting
that
at, it looks to me like logically, they're gonna got to go around a volunteer fire station. I would think that's where they really need to go. The problem I can see, there's several things, are they air conditioned?
It's optional.
They can be.
They can be.
Okay, because you're gonna have to open the fire station for, or whatever, where they'll have a bathroom. People show up there, that's the thing out here, they show up and they can, have TV to watch and they can just relax. And here, it's a little different, and so they're gonna open the fire station up so they can have access to it. And then, somebody's gonna have to come in and clean that up later, possibly. And it's a volunteer, can we go on some of these, let's just say these fire stations that the county doesn't own, would that be a factor? We can't
Yes,
really
sir.
go there, can we?
It is a factor. It would need to be county-owned property.
That's what I thought.
And so I know that as we were looking at some of the potential locations, we were careful to make it clear
Right.
that that location needed to be county-owned. So I can think of 1 or 2 in particular where we knew that that was not going to be an issue. We would be able to establish that we own the property. Also, and I'm going to defer to Mike to clarify this, but my understanding with respect to the small shelters is They are designed basically not as a place to come camp out, but as a place to hurriedly get to, because the alternative is you're in the ditch.
I understand that, but you know, just like I do, they're gonna, it's upon one coming, they're gonna head there 30 minutes
Right.
early, or they've heard it's coming.
The
Just like they
design
do
of it-
here.
The
It's short
design
term.
of it
Yeah.
is such that I don't think you're gonna want to be there for very long.
Well, I understand, I do.
Yeah. So
But I'm just
I-
saying
I
these
don't think
things-
it's a-
And
there's
then
no
where do you
windows.
stop as far as putting one? You know, the outerlined areas obviously is where these need to go.
Right,
And then
yes.
if you don't have enough to go around, then they go, how come we didn't get one? You know, we live right here, and why come we didn't get one?
I agree. But getting 5 at a time,
Yeah.
if that happens, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good lick for our county. The way I see it, the positioning that I see it is specific to rural areas.
Yeah.
Leesburg area was one idea, our Pisgah area, the area down at Johns where we've got a new firehouse.
Is that gonna be
going in.
county owned?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of, I
Well-
think, viable locations that provide a stopgap for the folks that are so far away from the permanent shelters.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's where we came up with on the 16th section on the big
That's right.
units, is because it's county related. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't have to go out and purchase property.
Right. We'll have to have some sort of agreement with the school district that allows us to be able to satisfy MEMA that the county controls that property. So I'm a little hesitant, Brad, that that we could say definitively
Yeah.
we're gonna be on 16th section, but that seems to me to be a viable option for us not having to acquire any property. We just need a motion to authorize.
I'm gonna make a motion to
Oh.
authorize, move forward to the next stage.
Second. I know Bishop
All
wants
right.
a second, I'm just gonna cut him off.
Yeah, thank you, man, I appreciate it.
Cut him off.
I was almost there.
I know you were, I just jumped ahead of you.
All right, got a motion by Brad, second
I'm gonna
by
give you the credit. for it,
Daniel.
but-
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Brad,
All
just
opposed?
for clarity, that is
Hey.
for all three. That's for the
For-
two
my
bigs
motion's for
and-
all three.
yeah.
And the 5, all right.
Okay. So at this point, we'll get what we need to Mr.
But
Slade.
wait a minute, is this only if we're gonna do at the 12%?
Now, what your motion's not bounded, is to pay whatever the match is. Whatever that ends up being, that's what the motion is.
I don't know,
Because,
I
but this
don't know,
gonna be,
I'm good with the 25%. We got a lot of other things. But I guess that we can decide that later. Okay.
Yeah, if the total match, which is gonna be in the neighborhood of 2.1, 2.2-ish for everything, whole package.
at
if that's a
25%.
stretch, Then knock off one of the big ones.
And you can do that.
Well, I think the
and
big
you
ones
can-
are more important than the little ones.
But
Honestly.
Take out the little
But
ones.
we can do that when the results come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
My thought was we might, or hopefully we'll be able to use some of the CARES money.
Possibly, Jared, although they're very specific in their details,
Oh,
that it has to
federal
be
fund.
non-federal
Yeah.
match. Where I think
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Where,
That's
where
right.
I think we can make some traction, seriously, is that we've got the ability to do a pretty healthy dose of dirt work,
Yeah.
of site prep, and the value of the property. The value of the property is a place that we can effectively create some.
The
I
Rankin
won't say
County
much
property's
yet.
going up in
You
value.
know how it is.
Board.
And we got a lot of Colorado people coming in buying this property left and right, so the fair market value of our property is going up and up and up.
Yeah. And they were, Mr. Slade specifically asked a question no less than 3 different times.
To open it,
Okay,
run it.
so when you said fair market value, do you mean like the fair market value? And they were explicitly for sure. So, for example, the 16th section, if we can get some MOUs through Mr. Slay and the folks over at the school district, once we take possession of that, then the fair market value of that land obviously is the fair market value of that land. So we could utilize that. So totally up to y'all. We just wanted to know how you wanted us to navigate the stream. That's what we're here for this morning. So.
Thank y'all.
So the way I understand it is,
We
at this
moving
point,
forward.
move forward
Where-
and
When will the discussion be where these small ones, per se, will go?
we sent a matter of fact, I believe Mr. Higgs sent out a email with some maps and the locations to you guys on Friday, probably 3 weeks ago. Would that be all right? Of the potential locations, so because we had to get the notices of intent in, because the period was fixing to close.
But they can be moved, and the main issue is as long as it's not in the floodplain.
That's what we believe.
I don't
yeah.
know of any that, I can't think of any that I know of would be anywhere
Well,
close to
some of them, you
flood.
know, like on some of that 16 section. like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
On the application, I have to
Floodplain.
put a primary location.
And a
Yeah,
secondary.
And a secondary, and then I have to tell them why the secondary is not gonna work.
Okay.
But anyway, so.
It's pretty arduous. It's got federal government red tape wrapped all the way around it, so.
I would assume that you guys would like to see, before the application finally hits MEMA, Keith can push out the locations to you guys so that you'll have another chance to hear precisely where are the locations that we're saying.
I'd like to know that pretty
That'd be
soon.
helpful. All right, so we'll make sure y'all got some information on that.
I don't know about y'all, Keith sent me mine, I don't have any, that made it easy.
Hey, one in Puckett Station, that's not county, down in town.
All right, you good, Word?
Thought we get turned
Hey,
it
I know one thing on the additional business side that's not on there. We know we talked about on Thursday was that bond issue stuff, the bond projects. Yeah, the only thing I'd want to ask on that was maybe each month, if we could get and they may not want it, but I'd like
What
to
now?
see it, the bond projects that we have.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a monthly update, just me. You can email, they don't have to see it, but if you can email me that spreadsheet updated on cost as we go through it, because I know we're running out of time on the bond that's got to be spent. So just a monthly update on that. That way you don't have to have it on the meeting. If I see something crazy, we can bring it to the meeting or whatever. But just a monthly update on that spreadsheet on that bond would help me. So
but if you hit send it, you're supposed to send it out to everybody. It's just a matter of pushing a button.
Yeah, we better get moving on our dog shelter too, you know. Hey, Craig, are you positive that, since we can't facilitate that federal windfall we had coming to put EOC there, that we couldn't spend that on a animal shelter?
It's gotta be.
We don't know. And when you say windfall, we're talking about Rescue Plan Act money.
No, we're talking about that Michael Gates.
Oh, the EOC. I'd have to go back and ask the staffers.
Otherwise, we're gonna turn it back in, right? Except for the
There's
$250.
no money there. That was nothing more than permission to submit that for purposes of an allocation. That's all that was. It was not funding available.
So we don't even have the one.
Not yet. We were told, if you're gonna submit it, all you can get is one. That's where I said, stop, wait. We don't want a third of an EOC building. We know it's gonna cost at least $3 million, right? We know that. So that was an allocation request, Jay.
Okay, never mind.
I'll
But
have-
we still need to get moving on our animal shelter.
Yes.
Because as Daniel pointed out, we run out of time.
I'll have more to say shortly about what happened with all that.
All right.
executive session.
I'll make a motion going.
We were gonna have Judge McDaniel come down and talk about our public defender situation. So I'd like to talk, since that is a personnel matter.
Trey's here,
I'll talk
though.
to you guys about it. That's one item we're gonna be talking about. I don't think Judge Max will be able to get down here. So I'm gonna try to carry that discussion in executive, but it is personnel. We also have fairly significant amount of litigation stuff to talk about, and Trey's here to help us with that. So those are the two items that we would be
Make a
talking about.
motion, discuss the need going to executive session.
Second.
All right, motion, need to go to executive session by Jay, second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor to discuss, litigation
Litigation.
and personnel.
Personnel.
All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed.
I make a motion, go into executive session, personnel litigation.
All right, motion.
Second.
Motion by Jay, second by Brad. All in favor say aye. All opposed.
Not that close.
Come on, Big Daddy.
Not that close.
Literally.
And we're gonna try it for one.